Okay, it's time to get started. Thank you everyone for joining our live lecture today. My name is Isaac and I'll be the lead instructor for the lecture. And today's topic is going to be database basics in NoSQL. So the correlation of databases is there's more than one type, okay? So we're going to be learning about a specific type today called NoSQL. And in a nutshell, what a NoSQL database is allows the insertion of data without a predefined schema. Okay, so the type of database we're going to be using in relation to NoSQL is MongoDB. Okay, so MongoDB is a widely used database, and so we're going to be learning how we can use it in our own applications today. So as well as MongoDB, we're also going to be learning about MLab. MLab's a cloud provider for MongoDB. So that way we can store a database in the cloud and we don't have to do it on our local machine. Okay, so that being said, let's just go to MLab and let's sign up for an account. Once you sign up for an account, go ahead and create a new database. Okay, so from here you choose a cloud provider, and I'm just going to choose Amazon. And for the plan type, I'm going to choose Sandbox. And then we will continue. Okay, and then from here, I'll just choose the region closest. And we'll create a database name. So I'll just call this Coder Camps DB. Okay, everything looks good here. So we submit the order. And we wait for that to process. Okay, looks like it went through successfully. So at this point, let's go ahead and let's head over to database users and excuse me. So we're database users and let's add a new database user. Okay, and the reason we're doing this is because we have a couple different levels of authentication here. Okay, we have our account user, which is who we logged into our account with. But then within an organization, we might want to have several other users, okay? So how we can add those is simply click database user, and then I'm going to add the name Isaac, and I'll just make the password something simple like 123, and we will create. Okay, so from here, let's discuss the collections tab. Okay, so how we're going to set up our database is we're going to have these subcontainers called collections. Okay, and collections are for different categories of data. So you'll probably have users collections and maybe movies collections, right? And they all work together, but at the end of the day, they're separate. Okay, so now we've established what a collection is. Inside a collection, let's talk about the individual records, okay? And each individual record is referred to as a document, okay? So a document has characteristics about it. For example, if it was a user document, it might have a username and an age and things like that. So for user documents, they have fields, okay? And fields are those specific characteristics. So now we've had a general breakdown of how this works. Let's go ahead and let's connect. Okay, so how we're going to do this is after we've installed MongoDB and we've got the Mongo shell, then we can come to our command line and we can connect using the Mongo shell. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to use this driver right here, okay? It says connect using the Mongo shell. So we go ahead and copy that, and then I'll paste it in. Oh, it looks like it executed it. Oh, dang it. Okay, so it's not going to let me paste it in. So let me see here if I can just try that one more time. Okay, good. So yeah, I think I pushed enter last time. So now I'm just going to replace these placeholders here with the actual database user. And then I'm going to come over here and switch this out for the actual database password. Okay, and now everything else is set up to connect to our database instance. So let's go ahead and hit enter. And as you can see, it lets us know that we are connected. Okay, so now we're connected to our database. We can perform different operations. Okay, and there's 4 very common operations when it comes to databases. and those are referred to as CRUD. Okay, so CRUD stands for create, read, update, and delete. Okay, and those are kind of the four pillars of database operations. Okay, and so as it probably sounds, create is when we insert new data into our database. Read is when we get data and we query it. Update is when we update it, right? We edit it. And delete is when we remove it from our database. Okay, so let's go through each of the CRUD operations using our Mongo shell here. Okay, so let's just start off by creating a cars collection in our database, and that we can insert some car documents in that collection. So I'm going to say add collection, and let's just call this cars. Okay, so now we have a cars collection as 0 documents. Let's go and insert some documents into that cars collection. Okay, so we'll just give this, like a model and a year. So let's start by saying db.cars.insert1, and then we'll just pass in key value pairs. Okay, so for example, I want to pass in the type of car as well as the year. Okay, so we'll just say type, and then I'll say maybe for the first one it is Tesla, and then I'll put a comma to separate my key value pairs, and I'll put a year, and the year will be equal to 2017. As you can see, I passed in this as a string type and this as a number. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close this off, and now it's going to insert this data into my cars collection. Okay, so as we can see, it acknowledged true and success. So we go to our MLab and we refresh, and we can see that we now have one document in our cars collection, and it has the type of Tesla and year of 2017. One other item you might have noticed that got added was an ID. Okay, and this is a real unique part of Mongo, is that every time you create a new document, it's going to automatically create an ID for that document. Okay, so that way, if say we have 2 Teslas, same type, maybe same year, we can still separate them using an ID. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's create a couple more cars in our database. Okay, so I'm going to say db.cars.insert1, and then let's go with a type of Mercedes. Okay, and the year, let's go ahead and we'll make the year 2000. Okay, and then let's insert one more car. Let's say insert 1, and let's make a type of BMW. And then let's go ahead and give it a year equal to 2006. Okay, so we got 3 different cars, and they have 3 different types and 3 different years. Okay, as you can see, they're all in a single cars collection. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's talk about how we can query these, right, and retrieve this information from our database. So let's go ahead and let's say db.cars.find, and then what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to pass in some sort of filter. So we could say find all cars that have a type of Mercedes, or a year of 2006. Or if we just wanted to get all the cars in the collection, we just say find, and we pass in an empty filter. Okay, so I will say enter, and as you can see here, we're getting all 3 cars. Okay, that is the result of our query. Okay, so this covers the read part of our operation. Okay, we already know how to create data and insert it. Now this is how we read it. Okay, but when it comes to databases, oftentimes, you're going to want to get a little more fine-grained than this, because at the moment we're just getting all cars, and then sometimes we're only going to want to get specific cars. Okay, so let's go ahead and go over that. Let's go over how we can find cars by equivalence. Okay, So let's say we want to find all cars with the type of Tesla. So we're going to say db.cars.find, and then what we're going to do is we're going to use the bling EQ operator. Oh, I don't know why I hit enter. Let's try that again. Dot find. Okay, so it's bling EQ. Okay, and then for the value, I have to pass in my equivalence. Okay, so find all cars with a type equal to Tesla. Okay, we'll close those off and enter. Oh, I switched these up. We're actually supposed to put type equal to Tesla. That's right. So let's say db.cars.find, and we will say type, and then we will use bling EQ equal to, and then we'll pass in Tesla as the actual value there. Okay, so you see when we executed that, it only returned the Tesla. Okay, it left out these other two because Tesla was the only one that matched our equivalents. Okay, so now we know, okay, we can find cars by equivalence. Let's go ahead and let's talk about how we can use comparison operators to find cars as well. So let's say we want to find all cars with a year greater than 2005. And we know right now we have 2 cars that have that year, okay? So we should only get those 2 returned. So how we're going to do this is we're going to say db.cars.find, and then we're going to pass in year. Instead of the equal to operator, we're going to say greater than. And the year is going to be 2005. Okay, so from here, let's go ahead and close that off, and execute the query. Okay, so as you can see in this query, we were only returned the cars with the year greater than 2005. So let's go ahead and reverse that by finding all cars with the year less than 2005. Okay, so that should just be our Mercedes here. So we're going to say db.cars.find. We're going to pass in year. We're going to send bling less than, and then we just have to specify the values, like 2005. Okay. Let's see here. Year less than. Let's see here. Find year less than 2005. Oh, I'm missing a bracket. Okay. db.cars.find. Okay, we pass in the year and bling less than and 2005. Close that bracket, and we'll close that bracket. Okay, perfect. So as you can see, we only get 1 car returned, okay, and that's the year with the car with the year 2000. And you know, so now we're really being able to control our searches, right? As you saw, the first query just got all the cars, but now it's like, okay, we can get cars by equivalence or by comparison operators, and there's actually a couple other ways we can perform our queries as well. So let's go over those. Let's add logical operators to the mix, okay? So what we can do with a logical operator is we can add and or statements basically to our queries, okay? So let's say I wanted to find all cars with the year greater than 2005 and less than 2010. And in our collection right now, the only car that matches that criteria is BMW. So we should only get 1 car returned for this query. So what I'm going to say is db.cars.find, okay, and then I got to pass in bling and, then I can pass in an array. And from here, I just need to pass in my specific conditions, okay? So let's go ahead and let's say we're going to find all cars with the year that is greater than 2005. Okay, close that. And as well, we're going to find cars whose year is less than 2010. So we'll say year bling less than 2010. Okay, so now we just got to close up this array, close up our operator, and we are ready to execute. Okay, perfect. So as you can see, it only returned one car, and that was 2006, because it was the only car with a year greater than 2005 and less than 2010. Okay, so this is how you can combine multiple conditions if you want to, evaluate for those circumstances. Okay, so let's do the OR operator now, and how we can evaluate for one or another value. So in this condition, let's say we're looking for either types of Tesla or types of BMW. Okay, either or will work. Let's just say we're searching for one of those two in our query, or both. So I'm going to say db.cars.find, and then we're going to pass in bling or, pass in an array. The array is going to contain our conditions. Okay, so I will say type. Okay, and the type, let's go ahead and make this Tesla. Okay, and then let's pass in second condition. Oops, I forgot the quotes at the end of Tesla. Here we go. Okay, type Tesla or the type of BMW. Okay, so we'll go ahead and close that off. Close that, and we're ready to execute. Okay, yeah, I think it's because we aren't using our equivalence operator. Okay, so let's try this. db.cars.find, and we'll say bling or, pass in the type, which is bling equal to, how do you say it? Tesla. There we go. Tesla. Okay. And yeah, it looks like we forgot type brackets bling EQ Tesla. There we go. Okay. So we'll go ahead and close that off, and we'll add our other condition. So we'll say type equivalent to BMW. Close that, close that. Now we're ready to close the array. And we're ready to close that bracket. And we're ready to execute. All right, perfect. So as you can see, we were only returned 2 vehicles, okay? And that's because it found the type of Tesla or the type of BMW. Okay, and as you can see, Tesla and BMW returned, but the Mercedes is ignored because it doesn't match either or. Okay, so next, let's go ahead and let's go find a document by its existence. Okay, so for example, if we don't know if there's specific data in our database, right, and we want to check. Okay, sometimes it's not as easy as looking in MLab, right? We got thousands of records. We want to run a query. Okay, so here's how we could do this. We could say db.cars.find. Then we're going to pass in, let's say, cars that have a color. Okay, then we're going to pass in bling exists equals true. Okay. So from here, we just close that off like so. Okay. So as you can see, this didn't return an error, but it actually just didn't return anything at all, right? Because there are no cars that have the, color property, right? None of the fields on our objects in our database have that. Okay. So this is how we can look up documents by existence. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's talk about something called projections. Okay, so projections are a really handy way of only querying the data you need within a search. Okay, so for example, sometimes you're going to have like a car, and maybe it will have a model, a color, a year, manufacturer's number, right? Maybe you'll have 100 different items on it. And maybe you only need one thing off of that whole document. So a faster approach to our query, instead of just querying the whole document, is just to query only what we need. Okay, and again, this is referred to as a projection. So to do this, let's go ahead and let's say maybe we only want the type information. Okay, so how we can do this is we could say db.cars.find, and then we could go ahead and we could pass in our filter. Okay, so do this. And then the second field is our projection. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pass in type, and then I got to pass in a 1 or a 0 here, which will evaluate to true or false. So in our case, let's pass in a 1. Okay, so close that off, execute. All right, perfect. So now, as you can see, I don't have the year field. Okay, I only have the type and the ID field. So now I'm only querying what I want. And maybe I don't even need the ID. Okay, maybe I just want the type as it is. So how I could do that is I could just pass in a 0 for my ID. So I'm going to do this. We're going to say db.cars.find, and then we're going to pass in empty brackets, and from here we'll say type equals 1 underscore ID equals 0. Okay, and then let's go ahead and close this off and execute. Okay, so you see now in my search, I'm only getting the type information back. I'm not getting anything else. And yeah, this is the approach we want to take because it's a lot more performant, a lot less heavy on our database. Okay, so next, let's go ahead and let's talk about how we can update documents. Okay, we've created a document. We've learned a lot of different ways we can read that document. Now let's go ahead and learn how we can update it. Okay, and this comes down to using the Boolean set operator. So how we're going to do this is let's go ahead and change our Tesla in our database. Let's change the year from 2017 to 2018. Okay, so how we can do this is we'll say db.cars.update, and then let's update 1. That's right. And then let's just pass in the Boolean set operator. Okay. I don't know why I hit enter. Let's try that again. db.cars.update 1. There we go. Okay, then we'll use Boolean set. And for the value, we'll just pass in what we want to update. So let's just say the year, we want to update that to 2018. Okay, so from here, let's just close this off and execute it. Let's see here. Can't convert undefined to an object. db.cars.update1. Boolean set. Let's see here. What did I miss? Oh yes, that's right. I didn't put in what I was targeting. I just told it to update. Okay, so let's do this again. So what we need to do, the first argument is what we want to update. The second argument is the actual new data. Okay, so we'll say db.cars.find, and then we'll pass in what cars we're looking for. So let's say we're looking for all cars that have a type equal to Tesla. Type Tesla. Okay, and then the second argument is our boolean set. Okay, so it's going to find all Teslas, and we're going to set the year to 2018. All right, perfect. So let's go ahead and let's close that off. And we got that separated here. So let's go ahead and close this off and close this. Okay. So now looks like I just need to change from find to update. So let's do that. So let's say cars.update1. Okay, with the type Tesla, set the year to 2018. Perfect. Okay, so as we can see, it says modified count is 1. So we have reason to believe it went through successfully. So now if we refresh our database here, we can see that our Tesla's year was changed to 2018 using our update 1 method. All right, moving right along. Let's talk about how we can delete documents within our database, okay? Before we do this, I just want to put a word of caution out there, okay? Deleting data in your database is a very risky thing. So don't do it more than you have to. You know, make sure that you are building your software in a way that you don't have to delete data on too often of a basis. So that being said, let's go ahead and let's target some data. So let's say we want to remove all the vehicles with a specific type, okay? So if we're going to do this, let's go ahead and say we'll delete BMWs, okay? So I'm going to say db.cars.delete 1. And then we will pass in the type, and we will remove the BMW. Okay, so as you can see, it says delete count 1. So now if we go to our database and we refresh here, we can see that we don't have a BMW anymore, okay? Because we deleted it using our method right here, delete 1. Okay, so moving right along, let's go ahead and let's talk about indexes, okay? So sometimes there's going to be specific fields on a document which you're going to be querying a lot, okay? Like underscore ID, it's a very common one to query, but maybe a type is another one, right? Maybe we're querying cars by type a lot. So whenever you notice that you're querying the same field over and over again, it's good to create an index for that field. And what that will do is it creates a ordered copy of that search index to where it's a lot faster for it to look up the information. So let's go ahead and head over to MLab. And if we look, we can see that we actually have one index set up so far, and that's for the underscore ID property, okay? So let's go ahead and set up our own index for type. Okay, so how we're going to do this is we're going to say db.cars.create index, and then we will pass in what field we want to create the index for. Okay, so I'm going to say type, and I'm going to pass in 1, and again, 1 equals true, 0 equals false. Okay, so we execute that. And it looks like everything went through good, right? It says number before, number after. So now let's go back and we refresh MLab. We can see that we have type now, okay? And that means, you know, every time we're going to query this, it's going to be a little bit faster, okay? So it's indexing is a way of improving the overall performance of your database requests. All righty, next, let's go ahead and talk about one-to-many relationships, okay? And to understand a one-to-many relationship, let's go ahead and explore some software that already uses it, okay? So I'm gonna go to Yelp, okay? So let's go to yelp.com. And when we go to Yelp, what they have is a database full of places, and they have a bunch of categories, okay? And what they've done is they've related one category to many places, okay? So you can see categories are over here, places, locations are over here. So whenever, I click restaurants, near San Francisco, that category, pulls up everything from the database, okay? So we're going to create a similar situation in our database. So let's insert and create some collections for places and categories. And then after we create the collections, let's insert some documents in there to where we can perform a query similar to Yelp, where we only have to query once, and we're going to get all of the places related to a single category in one query. So how we're going to do this is we are going to go to our database, and let's start by creating a new collection. Let's call this categories, and we'll create one more called places. Okay, so now let's go and insert some data into each of these. So I'm going to just start off with db.places.insert. And then let's just give it a name, and we'll say maybe the first place is Disneyland. So we'll say Disneyland. And from here, let's go ahead and I don't know if it's going to like those single quotes. Actually, let's not risk it. Disneyland. Okay. So let's close this off. Enter. Okay. So it inserted Disneyland. So let's go ahead now and let's add a couple more places. Okay. So let's give another entertainment place so we can get two in the same query. So I'm going to say db.places.insert, and we want the name to be Universal Studios. Okay, and this will just be like entertainment category, just like Disneyland. Okay, good there. Execute. All right, now let's create a third place, but let's make this place a different kind of category. Let's make it more like food. So we'll say db.places.insert. And then let's do name in out burger. Okay, so now let's head back to our MLab. Let's refresh. We can see that we have added these three places. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to create our categories, and we want to take the places from here and add them as a relation in our categories documents. So how we're going to do this is let's start off with entertainment. Okay, so we'll say db.categories.insert. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to give it a name of entertainment. And from here, we're going to give it multiple values for its places property here, and that's going to allow us to make one request and have access to many places. Okay, so I'm just going to pass in Disneyland, and also let's pass in Universal Studios. Oops, there we go. Okay, so I will close this array, and we will close the bracket and execute. Okay, so now we have categories, and as we can see, it already has all the places associated with it. So we've now created a one-to-many relationship between the category and those places. So let's go ahead and do the same thing with our food category. So we'll say db.categories.insert. And then let's give it a name, and we'll call it food. And then the places that are related to food, we only have one right now, so we'll say In-N-Out Burger. Okay, so Let's go ahead and execute. As we can see, that went through successfully. So now we head back to MLab, and we can see that we have two categories. Okay, this is Disneyland and or I'm sorry, entertainment and food, and we have the places associated with each of those categories. So now let's go ahead and do some queries and see this one-to-many relationship in effect. So let's say I wanted to find all entertainment. Okay, so all I would need to do is say db.categories.find, and we will find all categories which have a name equal to entertainment. Okay, we'll say name, and then we will say entertainment. End. Okay, so as you can see, with one query, we were able to pull up the entertainment category and all the places associated with it. So we don't even have to make a request to the places collection, because we already have everything we need right here. Okay, and so let's do the same thing for food. So let's see, db.categories.find, and we'll say the name is food. Okay, and as you can see, we now just get the food category, and it brings all the places associated with it. Okay, so again, this is how you can set up a one-to-many relationship inside of your own MongoDB database using these collections inside the documents. Okay, so that about covers it for today. So let's go ahead and stop, and I'm going to ask or open the floor for anyone who has any questions. All right, so you are live. Go for it. Any questions today, folks? Okay, all right, no questions. Then we'll go ahead and end the call. Thanks everyone for having or attending, and have a great day.